Evening, everybody, and may I welcome to our proceedings members of the community who may be watching this meeting on our streaming service. A hearty welcome. We meet at a sad time in our national life. On Saturday, Her Majesty and her immediate family will say goodbye to her husband and consort, Prince Philip. For our part, as loyal Lancastrians, monarchists and republicans alike, we, in our own way, mourn his passing. He has been around for all our lives. Over the years, some of us have had the fortune to meet both the Queen and His Royal Highness. In my case, when they visited the Grand Theatre, and I had a conversation with them in the Dress Circle bar. He was the life and soul of the gathering, very relaxed and humorous. He was well briefed on our achievement in saving the theatre, and I appreciated the way he acknowledged the work of local amenity societies throughout the country. He had a way of making you feel good about yourself. Shakespeare's words in the mouth of Mark Antony might sum up Prince Philip. His life was gentle, and the elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say against the world, this was a man. Colleagues, we mark the occasion with a minute's silence, beginning right now. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for marking the occasion in that way. Can we go now to declarations of interest? Anybody? None to report. Thank you. I should welcome Councillor Hutton. He's deputising for Councillor Hugo. Welcome, Adrian.
Also, Chair, Councillor Coleman won't be attending this evening.
And yes, Councillor Coleman couldn't make our meeting this evening.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's Councillor Farrell, I beg your pardon, deputising, Councillor Hutton deputising for her. Can we now turn to item 2 on your agenda, the minutes of our meeting on the 16th of March. They have been circulated. Can I have a proposal that they be accepted as a true record? Councillor Robertson, Councillor Jackson, was it seconding? Thank you very much indeed. Those in favour, please show. Thank you for that. Can we now turn to item 3, a report on planning enforcement appeals lodged and determined? Any comment? I think we ought to note that there is an appeal lodged against our decision on 29 Waterloo Road, refused application for self-contained permanent flats. We shall be responding, of course, to that appeal. Can we then turn to the one planning application before us this evening? Item 4, the planning application for Beraldine Nurseries on Newhall Avenue. I'm now going to pause for a few moments while we bring in representing, I think, the objectors, Mr. Pete Langley, and speaking for the applicant, Amanda and David Wrigley. Pause for a few moments while we bring in representing, I think, the objectors, Mr. Pete Langley, and speaking for the applicant, Amanda and David.
So just to say, if anybody has the YouTube running, could they just turn it off? Just mute it for now, please.
Yeah, wrong one. Right, that's it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Chair.
I think.
Right.
Okay. Excuse me, colleagues, I'm having difficulty. The sunlight is on the screen and picking up the mute button sometimes is escaping me. I'm going to ask our Chief Planning Officer, Susan Parker, if she'd introduce the subject. You will have noted from your update notes that there are some variations on the conditions which are advised. The application is, of course, recommended for your approval. Susan.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try and share our usual PowerPoint presentation. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Great. Okay, so this application site is roughly 1/2 hectare in area, and it runs between Newhall Avenue and Jubilee Lane. The site is to the south of Progress Way, and it falls within the Martin Moss strategic site. It is previously developed land that was formerly occupied by glass houses. The wider area has a mixed character, including residential properties, glass houses, a fishery, caravan park, and open land. And the site falls within flood zone 3. The application seeks planning permission for the siting of 12 touring caravans, with the existing house on the site to be retained as owner's accommodation, and a washroom building is proposed along with parking and landscaping. It is intended that the site would be used for holiday purposes. As Chairman said, we've had an update note which details the receipt of an amended plan and subsequent changes to 2 of the conditions. Policy CS26 of the core strategy is most relevant to this application. This policy seeks to prevent development on the Moss unless it relates to outdoor recreational uses appropriate to a rural area. We consider a caravan park used to provide holiday accommodation on a temporary basis to constitute a recreational use appropriate to a rural area. And condition 23, as set out on the update note, would ensure holiday use. Although policy CS21 of the core strategy would ordinarily direct holiday accommodation uses to defined holiday accommodation areas of the town, it is recognised that this type of development would serve a different holiday market. No suitable sites for this type of development would be available within the defined holiday areas, and the scheme proposal would not undermine their viability or function. A number of representations have been received from local residents. In addition to the impact on the character of the area, these raise concerns relating to noise and disturbance, flood risk, drainage, wildlife and highway safety. No objections have been received by any of the statutory consultees who have considered the proposals in relation to flood risk, drainage, wildlife or highway safety. As stated in the office report, recent flooding incidents in the area have occurred due to existing problems with the network, and this proposal should not exacerbate these existing situations. Condition 11 is detailed on the update note. It is recommended to require the agreement of a management plan to minimise any issues relating to noise. In addition to the changes proposed on the update note and following receipt of the amended plan yesterday, it is recommended that condition 13 be amended to require landscaping on the eastern boundary to be extended further along this boundary to allow pedestrian but not vehicular access between the site and the land to the east. The landscaping proposals have otherwise been considered by the Council's Parks Department and are considered acceptable. In summary, this is considered to be an acceptable use in this location. No unacceptable impacts on the highway network, drainage, flood risk or ecology are anticipated. The site would be well landscaped and appropriate management could be secured through condition. On this basis and subject to the conditions listed and discussed, members are respectfully recommended to grant planning permission. Thank you.
With your agreement, I'm now going to bring in, speaking on behalf of the objectors, Mr. Pete Langley. You have 7 minutes in which to address us. Pete Langley.
Thank you. Right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Pete Langley from one of the properties that surround this project. I'm actually representing 8 people here. I've got reports from people all up down the lane and that's on Newhall Avenue, 5 of which directly surround this proposed development on each side. Mr. Wrigley has stated in his report it's surrounded by agricultural land, and I beg to differ, it isn't. It's surrounded by people's houses on each side of this property within a noise area. I think they also wanted me to talk about this because we have a caravan and we go away caravanning. Now, let me just say that caravanners are very nice people, but we go away in our caravan for one very good reason, and that is to get away from the stresses and the strains of business life and the weekly toil. And we meet up with our friends, our neighbours, and we all get together on a nice evening in the summer, and we sit out and we drink wine and we have a good old time. The difference being is that we are in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales, about 3 miles from anywhere. This is directly in the middle of people's houses. So I don't know how that's going to work out, really. We're going to get people returning late at night from shows in Blackpool. We're going to get people coming from the Pleasure Beach. We're going to get people coming to Blackpool for a good time, coming back at night and opening a bottle of wine, and through no fault of their own, just having a nice time. But they are in our area. They're in our housing area. I'd just like to say that it could be possible that up to 48 families per month at 12 caravans at a time, if they stopped a week, will be transient people through this thing. And they'll just go again. Now, I've also read in Mr. Wrigley's report that there's going to be a curfew at 10 o'clock on this development, so that noise will be kept to a minimum. I've also read that there'll be somebody on the site that will manage this and will look after it. All I've got to say about that, and Mr. Wrigley might be able to help me out with this one, is that why for the past 2 to 3 months has it been acceptable to allow teenage kids on motorbikes, quad bikes and mini bikes to treat this as a racetrack at all hours, afternoons, weekends, with no respect for anybody's privacy or anybody's peace on this lane? This is out of character for a conservation area. It is Marton Moss, and it has been Marton Moss for a very long time. And I've got another report here from a person down the lane that says they agree with the Civic Trust report on this, that if this is granted, then over a period of time, this will expand and it will get bigger, which is what it is. There's somebody else who's given us a report as well, and they stated that within a 1.5 mile radius of this site, we have 10 caravan sites, 2 quite big ones. We have a Blackpool caravan and motorhome site on Cropper Road, and we have Peel Hill Farm at Peel Road. The other 8 caravan sites are listed, registered, certified locations, and between these 10 sites, there is a potential for over 300 touring caravan pitches, 300 in a 1.5 mile radius.
Can't hear you, Mr. Langley.
Mr. Langley, have you muted yourself? We can't hear you.
Sorry, is that me?
Yeah, we just couldn't hear you then.
Sorry.
The sound went.
Sorry, can I go back? I can have another minute then. Like I say, it's out of character for a conservation area. Somebody puts on there, they agree with the Civic Trust report to say that if this is granted, it will expand over a period of time. And can I just say that in a 1.5 mile radius of this plot, there is 10 caravan sites. There's Blackpool Caravan and Motorhome Club site on Cropper Road. There's Peel Hill Farm caravan site on Peel Hill, on Peel Road. And between these sites and the other 8 listed, registered, certified locations, there's over 300 touring caravan pitches available for these people. 300 in a 1.5 mile radius. How many more caravans do we need in this area? It is a greenfield site. It's an agricultural site. The clue's in the title. It's called Berraldine Nurseries, not Berraldine Caravan Site. And although Mr. Wrigley's said he's going to make it very nice, and I'm sure he will do, he's going to put down probably 50% hard standing, concrete, tarmac roads. This will have an impact on water runoff, and this will be going into ditches that are already fragmented on Martin Moss, as you are, I'm sure, well aware. I've read environmental impacts, I've read the site surveys, I've read the flood plan. This is in zone 3 of a flood plan. Now, whether it'll make very little impact or not, it certainly won't make this any better. This will not improve what we've already got to deal with every year when United Utilities and the fire service come down after heavy rain trying to pump people's houses out. It's not going to make things any better. Like I say, it's a fragmented watercourse on Martin Moss. And the reason for that is all the housing developments and Progress Way, people and things that have been put in place over the years that have shut these dikes and ditches down so they don't flow as they should have done in the real world. I've got another report from somebody here that's looked at the plans and very quite rightly so. The foul water will go into the main sewer, into the main drainage. However, things from caravans now, people have showers in the caravans. The sinks, showers, washing up waters, milks, soaps, smells are all going to run off into open dikes, open water ditches. This will have an effect on biodiversity within the area. We do actually have an otter that runs up and down from Newell Avenue Fisheries all the way down to Jubilee Lane, probably 2 of them. But they come up and down the ditches. I'm sure they're not going to want to know about shower soaps and bits of milk coming in. I've read all the reports as well, and the sequential assessment that Mr. Wrigley's done only relates to the Blackpool area. Flood zones.
That's 1 minute remaining, Mr. Langley.
Thank you. The flood zones, as you can see, I'm sure you've all looked at this, is all this area here is flood zone 1, which is 500 yards down the road. So it would appear to me that Mr. Wrigley's bought this land, decided, what shall I do with it? I'll make a caravan site on it. Rather than deciding, I want to build a caravan site, let's look for where I can build it the best possible place. Flood zone 1 is a great place. Flood zone 3 is not a great place. I'm just happy to see that Stephen Woodhouse on the Martin Moss Forum for the Neighbourhood Forum, he's commented on this site and he's actually brought up a lot of the points that a lot of these people have brought all this paperwork to the same point. So we're not just picking this up. This is going to change this area. We're a little residential, quiet, small, rural community with houses surrounding it. We really do not want a holiday park next to our land. It will cause problems, and we're just trying to get away from that. I'd just like to say thank you.
Okay, I was just going to say that's your 7 minutes.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Langley. The applicant wants to have a few words. So, Amanda and David Wrigley, double act. Do you want to come in?
Right. Right, hi. I'm here.
Mrs. Wrigley.
I think so. No.
Go ahead.
You're just on mute at the moment. If you just unmute yourself.
All right. Okay. Yes. We're done. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Right. With reference to what's just been said, firstly, can I just say that the 2 children that are using their Christmas presents of a 49cc quad bike and little motocross bike is an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. They're certainly not teenagers. And it's their field to use it at the moment. Right, so back to the planning, back to the caravan site. We had been passed by one of the caravan clubs to have 5 caravans and 6 tents, but we did choose to go down the correct channels and go to the planning department. Obviously, tents would be more noisy than what the caravans are. Now, we realise that this is a concern to the neighbours, but we do actually live in this residential area as well. Now, the objections, it seems that one person has wrote the letter and they've all adapted it a little to put in their own words. Now, they all know us. They all know Mr. Wrigley. He's up and down the street with his dog. Now, if anyone had come and talked to him and asked about what is happening, what you're proposing to do, he would have explained what our plans are. But none of them, they've actually made us feel uncomfortable seeing our neighbours now because of the way they've worked underhandedly. Sorry, I'm nervous. But I know it's...
You're doing all right.
Right, yeah, right. Right, now, some of the issues they've said that there's not going to be anyone on site for any issues that arise, like rowdiness, noise, accidents. But as they all know, my daughter and her family live in the house that is on site. We live in the house at the other end of the site. So both families are there on hand. So why they've actually said repeatedly that there isn't going to be anyone there on site, we don't know. The mention of peace and tranquility, yes, as I said, we live in this area, but it's already been jeopardized by all the extra cars and vehicles that's going up and down the street, that's dealing with all the stables that are let out to non-residents. Most houses down here have stables, they let them out, so you've got people that's got the horses there. We have most days a farmer's tractor, sometimes twice a day, and the hay van, the hay truck delivering hay, the noise that creates, and also the speed that he drives. Now, to me, that is disturbing the peace. We've also got horse vans, lorries, there's lots of different things that come up and down which also disturb the peace. There's also some neighbours are running the businesses. They're talking about the dikes, the extra pressure on the dike system. Our field is actually dry. We don't flood because my dad has worked hard to maintain the dike system. He keeps it clean, cleared, and as I say, we have never had a flooding problem. Whereas the gentleman that had just spoken, he's blocked a lot of his dikes, and yes, his garden does flood. That is because his dike system isn't working as it should do. One of the neighbours is actually running a used car sales.
You haven't addressed the issue that you won't be accessing.
Right, which used car sales, and he deals with his cars. There's extra water going into the dikes. He stores between 30 to 50 cars in the back of the house that aren't, you know, it's like a scrapyard, and that is sort of polluting the dike system. So which that should be addressed, because you know that is causing a problem to the environment, as they're talking about the environment. Now what else, guys? Come on.
The roads.
Right.
It's not going to come in from that. And it's going to
Right. What another issue was that the extra traffic coming in from Jubilee Lane end, that was never going to be one of the entry points or exit points. Somehow the way it was done by the architects, the drawing, I suppose it could have looked like that, but it was never going to be used as an entry exit point. It was always going to be down from New Hall Avenue.
I've told the architect that.
And the architect has now revised the plans when I've said, look, that it doesn't look quite right, and he has revised the plans, which we haven't actually seen, but I assume that it must be okay. As to the various caravan sites that is up and running already around here, we don't actually hear any noise from them. We do have quite
Christina, you've got 1 minute left.
Okay, quite a large gypsy community, and they're all on hard standing sites. We don't have a problem. We don't hear them, you know. So even though they're back to back with us, you don't. They live in the caravans, so you don't hear them. They must get together, party, celebrate, whatever. But I think it's sort of the noise issue
Hard standing.
is what.
We don't.
Right, yes, and the hard standing, we've never actually suggested concrete hard standings. It was what was requested from yourselves. We would prefer to use a hardcore. Plus one more thing, now we're not in the EU, more people will be coming to Hardy in the UK. So yes, it might be, you know.
That's 7 minutes, yeah.
Right. Not yet. I think it's that us then.
I'm going to interrupt you, Mrs. Wrigley, because you've had your 7 minutes and a bit more. But we were very interested in what you had to tell us.
I could say one more thing. It is actually partly for charity as well, what we're going to be doing.
Okie dokie. Thank you for that.
Sorry, I'm just I'm very nervous.
You've done very well. Your
Thank
husband
you.
should be proud of you.
Yes,
I'm going to
I'm
ask Mrs. Parker to come in now and possibly reply to some of the points that have been made. Bearing in mind, everybody, this is recommended for approval, but I'm sure Susan will respond to those representations.
Thank you, Chairman. I will just share the PowerPoint before while I'm talking. I always forget to flick through it, so I'm conscious that I've not shown all of the plans. Here we go. So this is the layout of the site as proposed. I don't know if you can see along this end. This is where the vehicle access is potentially indicated. We have asked for a revised plan, which now shows, and I can actually show you the revised plan. It does take away this indication of an access, and as I suggested earlier, we would expect the landscaping to be continued along this eastern boundary to remove any potential for vehicle access. These are just the elevations of the buildings that are proposed, and that's the site layout for you. Just to respond to some of the representations. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to you. I never quite get the hang of these Zoom meetings. Right, in terms of the potential for noise, that has been considered. There is no dedicated area for congregation. There is soft landscaping proposed around the holiday plots. There is no sort of communal area. What we could do if members felt uncomfortable and wanted to provide extra security, the land to the east of the site within the blue edge, it does fall within the same ownership. We could put a restrictive condition on that land to require that it not be used in conjunction with the caravan park. That would prevent that being used as a sort of amenity space to go with the caravan park, if that would give further comfort. The objection from the Civic Trust, it does seem to focus very much on the potential for this scheme to be expanded and be the start of a larger development. Of course, if they wanted to expand this scheme, it would require planning permission, so we would have control over it. I am mindful that the Built Heritage Manager at the council has not objected, and of course it's the Built Heritage Manager who establishes the conservation areas. The comments relating to the drainage scheme and the potential impact on water quality, a few things to say there. The condition requiring the agreement of a drainage scheme would actually include measures to prevent contamination. We could, if members again preferred, impose a condition requiring agreement of the surfacing to ensure that surfacing is porous, to minimise the hard surfacing and water runoff, but the attenuation issues of surface water discharge and so on would be controlled through the drainage conditions. The Mr. Langley referred to areas in flood zone 1 nearby. Yes, that there are areas of flood zone 1. The agent acting on behalf of the applicant has submitted a sequential appraisal. That appraisal has been conducted in accordance with an appropriate methodology, and it considers a significant number of sites, all of which were discounted for viable reasons. And as officers, we felt that that was a sufficient sequential appraisal that we could accept. Yes, the traffic from Jubilee Lane, as it's been said, those plans have been amended. Yeah, I think they were all the comments that I had in response to the representations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, it's before you, colleagues. It's recommended for approval with a host of planning conditions, which obviously would have to be implemented as part of the development. Would anybody like to move approval? Councillor Graham, do you want to come? Councillor Baker, beg your pardon. Do you want to come in? Did you want to say anything?
You're just on mute, Councillor.
I'd just like to ask a question. The land to the north side, as I remember it, there were greenhouses there. So certainly at the Newhall Avenue end. So I don't, when you say it's surrounded by houses, 5 houses, I can't actually work out how 5 houses are actually surrounding that. I can only say 2, maybe 3. So am I right in assuming that those that were greenhouses on the north side are either still greenhouses or just open land? I think that's the case, really. There are other a caravan park on Newhall Avenue as well, to the other end towards adjoining Progress Way. And it's not, you know, that's been proved only last year, a second extension to that. It was originally just 5 caravans authorised through the Caravan Club, but a further 5 caravans were authorised last year through this planning committee. I don't think there's an abundance of caravans about the place. And to be quite honest, I feel that we're on the Moss trying to put places on the Moss which are, rather than developing it, overdeveloping it, I think a caravan site for the summer months is more acceptable than some overbuilding. That's just my opinion anyway. Thank you for that.
Were you moving approval, Councillor
Yes,
Baker?
I will move approval, yeah.
Is that seconded? A seconder for approval? Well,
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, please, Chair, if I can.
Are you seconding?
No, not yet.
Right. Well, have I got a seconder? Well, I'll second it from the chair. So the proposal is live. Did you want to come in, Councillor Robertson?
Yes, Chair, thank you. When Mr. Langley put his speech over to us, he says there was a curfew at 10 p.m. How's that going to work? I mean, Blackpool's 24/7 and a caravan park. If the people are late arriving, it's going to be after 10 p.m. And what sort of curfew is it? Can someone explain?
Anybody else coming in? Susan, do you want to explain the 10 p.m. curfew?
Well, I'll try to. I'm not 100% clear on the 10%, the 10 p.m. curfew. We do have a condition in place though that requires the agreement of a management plan. So that would look at things like the hours of arrival and departure, any time where lighting would have to be switched off. In fact, I don't think there is external lighting proposed. We could, again, if you were more comfortable about it, put on conditions that no amplified music being played externally. There are options that we could look at either through the management plan or by a bespoke condition if you have specific concerns relating to activity. As I say, there is no outdoor area that would be an obvious focus for congregation. There is landscaping between the individual pitches. But I suppose people will find any space perhaps if they want to. But it depends what your particular concerns are that we can either address them through the management plan that we agree, or we can put a bespoke condition on to try and manage that.
Yeah, that's fine, Susan. I was just concerned about the noise after sort of 10 p.m. in the evening. I mean, when caravans get together, they drink together, they party together, and the concern is the noise basically being so close to a residential area.
Remind me, Susan, how far away is the nearest house, apart from the property on the site itself?
Oh, right. I'm going to try and share my screen again because I'm going to put you on Google. There we go. Can you see my Google image here? So this is the site. Don't know if you can see my cursor. This here is a site. So I think we can reasonably assume that all of these properties are residential, or if they have a commercial element, then there'll be a residential component to that as well. So it's typical mossland. It's different plots that have the different buildings on them, somewhat haphazard, obviously a relic of the market gardening developments in the past where you have quite a large plot with a building on there. So I think there is a mix of uses and character down there. There will be stable buildings, there is a fishery, caravan premises, that there will be dotted bits of commercial use that are historic. But yeah, you can see the housing that is surrounding the site. It's ad hoc rather than a continual terrace or anything like that. Does that help?
Yeah. I mean, one the main concern as I listening to Mr. Langley was his fear for flooding and wastewater. United Utilities, as one of our prime consultees, have no problems with either matter. And I think that must be as important a piece of expert opinion as we're likely to get. Does anybody else want to speak on the matter? Oh, Councillor Stansfield, please, and then Councillor O'Hara.
Thank you very much, Chair. Like what you just said there, the one thing that does concern me is the flooding. I mean, let's be fair, the moss isn't called the moss because someone decided to call it the moss. It is the moss for a reason. And it does have its own water problems. I would like to see something in the conditions for a semi-permeable surface rather than a concrete surface to allow natural drainage and soak away. As far as wastewater is concerned, as a caravanner myself, most caravan sites, I'll ask you to put grey waste into the hedgerows. So I don't really know what we can do about that. It seems to be the natural way of dispersing it. But yeah, I would like to see something as far as the semi-permeable surface rather than hard standing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stansfield. And Councillor O'Hara, please, Vice Chairman.
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Baker and Councillor Stansfield have said. I did have a drive up there this afternoon to have a look at the site, and it seems to me for that it's probably one of the most suitable developments that you could have there, because I've always been worried that developers come in and they want to build large housing estates, which has already happened, and we've actually refused to, and on appeal they've got the two developments. I think there's always going to be a worry about the water, but I wouldn't have thought 6 caravans with a proper building that's in the proper drainage should cause so much of a problem. But that's my only statement. It'll probably be slightly busier, but I think it's a fairly busy dead end anyway at the minute.
Thank you very much indeed. Anybody else want to contribute? If not, I'm going to put it to the vote. And I'm going to ask those in favour of the recommendation for approval with the conditions in the report as amplified in the last minute notes. Before I go to the vote, I think, Susan, you wanted to come back?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to clarify that the additional conditions required by committee would be something relating to the surfacing to ensure that it's permeable, and perhaps a change to the wording of the drainage condition to take account of disposal of, I think, grey water. Is that the technical, right? Okay, grey water. Also, the land at the end, would committee prefer a condition preventing use of that land in conjunction with the caravan park for social, to try and stop the sort of communal use? Yeah, I'm seeing nods. Yeah, okay.
We're happy with those proposals. Yeah.
Thank
Right.
you.
Can we go to the vote then, colleagues? Those in favour of the application as conditioned, please show. Anybody against? The application is approved. Thank you very much indeed. Apart from deciding and agreeing our next meeting, we're happy with that. I will close the meeting, thanking you for turning up in your very warmly heated homes with sunlight beaming through the windows and all looking as if you are enjoying the springtime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.